And welcome to Kiki's Keys to Unlocking Your Best Life. This is Kiki Rogers, and this is a show that brings you weekly stories of friends who have survived their worst and are now living their best to give hope and inspiration to others. My name is Kiki Rogers, and I am your gracious host, and I wouldn't be able to be here without our generous sponsors. So I want to say thank you to We Care Tucson, Sarah Sodders Luxury Real Estate, Kiki Rogers Country Financial Insurance, Crossroad Coaching and Career Counseling, and Phones Down Just Drive. And I am here with a wonderful special co-host today. Welcome, Trisha Beck. Hi, Trisha. How are you today?
Hey, I'm better than I should be.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I invited Trisha on. Trisha is an author, a coach, and a business owner of Beck Leadership. And tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Well, Beck Leadership was created after I retired from public education and said, nope, I'm not done yet. And so I took what I knew about how people learn and turned it into a business.
Oh my gosh. And you did more than that. You've also published some books, correct?
Yes, I have 2 books. The first one came out right as the COVID pandemic hit in March of 2020, and it's about mentoring. And the second book was released last February, and it's about communication skills.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What was it like writing a book and having it released before COVID? Did that add some challenges to it?
Not really. It gave me a purpose, a sense of purpose. When we were in lockdown, it gave me real motivation. It was like, I was hatching a baby.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Trisha, you're here with me today. We are interviewing our guest, Jason Robinson of Sport Class Customs. And also, like myself, Jason, you also come from a finance and insurance background and do that full time, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Well, welcome to the show,
Thank
Jason.
you. It's an honor.
Oh, it's an honor to have you guys here. This is exciting. I asked Jason to be on today because you have quite a story of your own. And a little bit it has to do with COVID, but before we get there, you had to do some self-discovery when you were going into finance. How long ago was that you started the journey?
So the journey really started probably 2012. So
Okay.
I forgot how long ago it was, but yeah, that's where the journey really kind of started.
What made you want to get into finance?
So, well, getting into finance, that was kind of always something that I wanted coming through college, went through economics and was working in the retail banking world, and then really wanted to step into the individual financial planning market. So as I was getting into finance, I was always taught that there was really kind of 3 components in building your business. The first one was bringing in new clients, and that took courage. So you got to really step outside your comfort zone, network, and have some courage. The other aspect was really opening up a lot of accounts or insurance policies, and so that took a lot of hard work. Is really what the theme was.
Right.
And then, we always do what's in the best interest of the clients. But from a business standpoint, when you're looking at revenue coming in, that's really going to be a matter of knowledge.
Okay.
And so knowledge was really something that I was taught was you can either earn it or you can lease it. So we would lease it doing joint work, having a partner in the firm that can help with some of the cases, or you would actually go out there and study and earn it yourself.
I totally get that. So I too come insurance background, started with Country Financial on my own in a little office space at first, and then moved in with other Country Financial agents who have been doing this for 30 plus years. And so when you said about the lease, that really resonated with me because having Chris Gurton and Kevin to, go to for resources and to be there, that support really made a difference in my own business.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work though, getting into insurance and finance. There's a lot of testing and schooling behind it, or not in a traditional sense, more really in cram and test from my experience. How was that for you?
Well, and that's, I think, really where this whole story really starts, because then I really started going after the studying aspect of it. So we have to have securities licenses in order to be able to recommend certain products or plans, right? And then there's the designation portion as well, which makes you an expert. So when I was going through the studying aspect of it, I would study, and what I ended up doing I'd end up failing an exam. And And so I was frustrated, but you pick yourself back up, do a little more studying, going after the next one, and ended up failing another one. And so this lasted for about almost 3 years. And I remember...
At that time, when you're failing those exams, what was your initial response to yourself?
Self-doubt. You know, you think, oh, am I smart enough to do this career? You know, do I even know what I'm talking about, or just pissed off? You start looking for other things to blame. And
Right.
yeah. And so really December 31st, 2015 is really when I hit the bottom. And I remember failing that one exam. This would have been the 12th one in a row. And after failing, going into my car and being so frustrating that I was screamed so loud in my car that I lost my voice for a couple of days.
I remember having that moment in my own story when I, after we had lost our son, it took me about a year of going through all the motions. And I remember just screaming it out at God, just why, you know, and that was really my point where I remember my own healing or change began. You're nodding your head over there, Tricia, being a coach and writing about how people need to find the courage within themselves. Have you experienced this with your clients or yourself?
Not so much with clients who are screaming, but personally, yeah.
Hitting that point where you're just totally frustrated.
Yeah, you hit that like the ultimate low, the ultimate frustration. And cars seem to be a good place to do that.
Yeah. Nice
in a car
space.
with the windows up, a safe space, and just let it rip.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're at that moment, you failed 12 tests.
Yeah. You know, so what I guess my message, because I've told this story before, and one of the things that I share is one of the worst places to be is when you start self-doubt. So that's where I really was the worst, didn't really think I should be in this career. And at this point, I'm 8 years into it. I really do have a client base, but I wasn't able to expand my career. And so that's really where I felt, that's really where it just started hitting me hard, was if I was supposed to be in this career or not.
So what did you do with that then?
Yeah, so what I will tell you is that, and so this is, I think, the start of the turning point, but my wife is in behavioral health. And so Marielle is a licensed counselor. She's got her master's in counseling. And so after all of these years of studying and I would go to the Starbucks at 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. literally every weekends. She says, Jason, it's not you're putting in the time.
Right.
So she says, I wonder if there's something bigger going on than just the study aspect of it. And so she goes, maybe we should have you talk to someone. And so for me, I grew up in a family that was hard workers, but we didn't necessarily talk too much about behavioral health, or it just wasn't prevalent in our world. So I hadn't really thought about it. And so I was really at my wit's end at that point, and I just was like, okay, whatever. If something can work, let's go. So did some research and found a physician in town, a psychologist, and he did some tests on me, and talked to me a little bit, and I got diagnosed with ADD at that point in time.
How old were you at that point?
So, how old was I? I was probably 35 at the time. Yeah, it's been almost a decade now at this point. So,
and I was in my 30s when I got diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go, really? They didn't see it before that? But I don't think it was being identified as much when we were kids as it has been for our kids.
Well, and what I tell people too, which is really fascinating, is I was very high functioning, is what I would say. So, I was getting a scholarship to U of A, and I was doing all these things, and so you wouldn't really think of it. And so I always like to say I kind of just through resilience and perseverance, I kind of probably hid a lot of what the symptoms were.
Yeah. How was your ADD? So other than the test failing, what are some signs or symptoms that you had noticed that the psychiatrist helped you identify?
Really, I'll get into a little more after we go through kind of like what the physician had done and what the prognosis was going forward. But you don't really know what you're missing. It's kind of like glasses. You never really realize how blurry things are until you put on your glasses. So
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah. So for me, I was just living, and just had frustrations, and going through college was difficult for me. But it was just like distractibility was high, but I had this keen sense of like perseverance that pushed me through all of the frustrations I was having.
Wow. Kind of like overcompensate with overachieving, trying to do more, adding more onto your plate a little bit.
Yeah. My dad always told me, it was like, son, you're burning the candle on both ends, you know?
Right.
And so I was like, that was just
Well,
fun for me, I guess.
wow, it's time for our break. We're going to go into break now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what you're able to do after getting the diagnosis of ADD and what life is like now.
Love it.
All right. Sounds
right.
good. We'll be back after this little break. Thank you. We are living the best life here on Kiki's Keys to Unlocking Your Best Life. And we are here with Trisha Beck of Beck Leadership and Jason Robinson of Sport Class Customs. And what is your financial business? Forgive me, I didn't write it
Yeah,
down.
Touchstone Wealth.
Touchstone Wealth.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me
And
that.
that song is jamming.
Isn't that great?
I love that. That's great.
Full disclosure, it's actually a Cardi B song, so it changes the tone really fast after that intro, but it works for the
Oh,
intro.
very cool.
So I've had a lot of people ask, like, where's that song? I'm going, just letting you know, the rest cannot be radio approved, but I like the beginning. Jason, thank you again for being here. He's sharing with us folks about how in his 30s, a career man, already finished school, but struggling with test taking, ended up getting diagnosed as adult with ADD.
Yep.
And so what did you do about that? After that diagnosis, okay, now what?
Yeah, so the doctor was really like, what's the key? I mean, what are we trying to accomplish here? And at first it was just to pass these exams. So, we played with a couple different medications, and I ended up on Adderall. And so I still take it to today. But at that point in time, it was just I put the glasses on. And so for me, and with a brain, for anyone who can relate to this with ADD, your brain is always looking for stimulation. And so what Adderall does is it really just does the stimulation for me, and it allows me then to be able to be focused. And what we figured out was inside of the exams for me, I was not being able to pay attention to what the questions were asking. So I knew the material, it was just the exam was hanging me up. So with this little bit of this missing piece, it allowed my brain to not be distractible or just lose interest, but I was able to stay focused, and then I was able to answer the questions. So once I got the diagnosis, or leading up, I had failed these 12 exams in a row. And from that point forward, I've now passed 13 exams in a row.
Good for you.
In my career path.
That's incredible.
Kudos.
So what are some of those designations that you have? I mean, let's roast up.
Okay, so I've got the Series 6, 63, the 7, the 65, Series 24, and then I've got the CFP, CLU, HFC.
So each of those series are different types of security products that you can then give advice on and recommend to people.
Yeah.
And then the 24?
I'm a registered principal, so now I'm able to do compliance for our agents as well.
Wonderful.
And advisors.
And so you used medication. I described my own. I did not respond as well to Adderall, but then there was another medication afterwards called Vyvanse that worked really well for me.
Yep.
And I described that and also using herbs for myself. It takes the squirrels out of my head, and I don't overthink, or I'm not as easily thrown off by one small little detail. Sounds like that was kind of what you were experiencing
that was
prior.
the missing key. So once I got through all these exams, I still see the physician today, and the question was really like, do you want to continue with the medication because you were high functioning, but now you pass these exams? And what I have found is that when I'm not taking the medication, I can feel like I'm just not firing on all cylinders. So I have chosen to continue taking the medicine and continuing to seek help because I feel like I'm just a complete person. And Marielle even says, you're just like an entirely different person, to the positive or negative if I'm not taking the medicine. So,
did you have any reservations about the medications or any concerns about feeling as a man like you weren't complete?
Totally. I think that was one of the things that I had to get over in myself, but it was as soon as I passed my first exam, it was like, are you kidding me? This is like
it's way easier.
This is what it feels like to win? Why would I ever give this up?
Wow.
So one of my encouragements I think I'd share with the listeners is that, there is a little taboo about behavioral health And as a male, I guess, and sometimes I say, just get out of our own way. And you never know just how good it can be on the other side if we're just able to be vulnerable enough and seek help and yeah.
I think that it takes a lot of courage. You said selling takes courage because you have to go out of your comfort zone.
Sure.
But self-discovery, you also have to go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to others, especially guys, who may be struggling with getting over that hurdle?
I just try and, for me, I was at my worst. And so for me, I was almost like desperate for anything. So, and I would hate for someone to have to wait until to get to that point before they seek help. So I just say, you know what, hopefully this story helps share some thoughts about just having the courage to seek help.
And I love the fact that you mentioned being vulnerable. That takes courage.
Yeah.
That
It
takes a lot of
does.
courage.
It does. Brene Brown talks about that a
Yeah.
lot, being vulnerable, that we can live our more authentic selves. So
Yeah.
what's life like now, Jason? I mean,
Well,
you're
Yeah, and
You're
if I can say
slamming
one,
it.
and
Yeah.
thank you. If I can say one last thing too, it's just like I also would just say for anybody, just wherever you're at in life, you don't. It doesn't have to be someone who can't function in order to seek help as well. So seeing a counselor, even if you're high functioning, sometimes it's just perspective as well to being able to talk with a counselor or a psychologist. Something.
That's really good
Yeah.
advice. So, and you're still
Yeah,
going
jeez.
a mile a minute, doing
Yes.
a million things. You are continuing to be a financial advisor.
Yep.
But then during COVID, you also picked up a new little side
Yep.
gig, didn't you?
So during COVID, the boys were 14 and 11 at the time, and so they were old enough not to bother Marielle and I when we were trying to work, but they were too old to not do anything and just twiddle their thumbs. So we have a detached garage, and that was where the workshop was. So I said, boys, let's go do woodworking curriculum. And so we did that for a few months, and through that, I had created a little product as well, and I put it up on Etsy, and that was at the tail end of 2020, and it blew up. So in 2021, we sold 2,000 of these pairing trays, and that started the woodworking company that we call Sport Class Customs. And today we've got a retail store downtown, and I've got a guy that works for me. What's up, Eric? How you doing? Got to give him a shout out.
That's awesome. And your store's at the Prosper Shop?
Proper Shops
Proper.
downtown.
Forgive me. I always want to put an S in that. Proper Shops.
Yep.
What corner is that on?
So 5th and Congress, we're on the southeast corner. So Playground's on the west side, and Hotel Congress is on the north side of us.
Excellent. That's a really fun shop. It's lots of different artisans in one location.
Yeah.
So you can shop for the wonderful trays that you sell, as well as now you have your timber totes.
Yeah, so quick, inside
Yeah.
the Proper Shops, we really have all these different style of artisans in there, local artists or retailers. And so Chelsea ran Willow's Boutique inside there, a women's boutique. Now she's outgrown it at this point, and she's partnered with Scarlett and part of Desert Mariposa. But through our collaboration, we actually create now a wooden purse. And we thought, what's more 2023 than using ChatGPT? So as we were coming up with this purse, we said, hey, AI, we got to come up with a name. So put us something with wood and purse. And in a couple seconds, it came up with a list. And number 3 was called Timber Tote.
Isn't that great?
So, yeah.
And they're beautiful.
They
I
are.
was checking it out online. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. To see him in person, too, and he can make them custom any color outside and fabric on the inside.
Yep.
And the wood bends.
Yep.
The wood actually bends. How did you do that?
It was a wood technique that, as Chelsea and I, we were kind of working through this. I was like, hey, there's this technique where we take a laser and it can do staggered cuts, and it allows the wood to then bend without breaking. And so that's what it creates, what we call living hinge. And so that's what gave us this one continuous piece that makes
What's
it work.
next for you, Jason?
Geez, what's next for me? Well, so just a little highlight is we were actually accepted. Part of Moonshot is a nonprofit, and they set up this Shark Tank style event. So on May 10th, the Timber Tote with Chelsea and I, we were selected to compete in that, and so that's kind of what's next there. I have a burning desire to be on the real Shark Tank, so I'm gonna put that out there in the public for Positive
So if anyone
thoughts.
has a way to get into Shark Tank, definitely recommend Jason for that.
Love to hear that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
And just continuing to grow other advisors in the financial planning world as well. So,
Very cool.
so that it's not just me seeing people, but I can teach them the ways, sort of speak, and people like yourself. This community needs more financial advice.
And I really appreciate the dichotomy of your skills and how you are, you're in the world of finance, but you're also in this very creative woodworking field, and they overlap beautifully. But that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it's
But
fun.
it goes to show that you can pursue something new
Yeah.
and incorporate that into your life without having to feel like you have to completely change your life over again.
Yeah.
Unlike
Totally.
some people who moved away from Minnesota and started all over. Not what I would recommend. I really love what you've done, and I love how you've used these tools and resources of behavioral health therapy and medication to identify maybe what was holding you back so that you could be your best self.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing
Well,
that
hopefully
with
it
us.
resonates with some of your listeners.
Absolutely. Well, we're so glad to have you here, Jason. Thank you
It's an
very
honor.
much. And Trisha, Beck Leadership and your books. Share again a little bit about your books and what people can benefit from.
The first book that I published, and it's self-published,
Mhm.
is Mentoring Lifts and Inspires, and it was intended to inspire women. And the first half is the nuts and bolts about how to be a mentor, find a mentor, embrace it in your company. And the second half is stories from actual women. And the other book is about communication skills, and it's similar format.
Wow, where can people find your books?
On Amazon, and if they just look under my name, Trisha Beck, author, they'll find both of those books. And sometimes they're on sale. It's just this weird algorithm, like it might be $5 or $12. You never know.
Excellent. And then do either you have a Facebook page or website you'd like to plug real quick before we wrap up?
Trisha at beckleadership.com is my email if anyone wants to reach out, or beckleadership.com.
Awesome. And Jason, how can they find more from Sport Class Customs or your
We're on all
Touchstone?
of the social media platforms. So if you have nothing else to do and you want to see some funny videos, you can go on to the Instagrams, the TikToks at Sport Class Customs.
Awesome. I'm so glad you guys came on today. We are out of time already. Can you believe it? It goes so fast.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was.
You do a great job. Thank
Well,
you, Kiki. This is great.
It's all about
Great
you guys.
platform
So
for
thank you.
people.
Great energy.
Well, and we couldn't do it without our sponsors. So thank you again to We Care Tucson, Sarah Sodders Luxury Real Estate, Kiki Rogers Country Financial, Crossroads Coaching and Career Counseling, and of course, Phones Down, Just Drive. Until next time, friends, be the best version of yourself that you can be, because nobody else can do it better than you. And we will talk to you at Kiki's Keys next week.